who's on their way to being faithfully restored.
The reason I donate to Faithfully Restored is because the women that founded this organization have gone through hardships and heartache, and they're really using those experiences to relate to others and help guide them through difficult times through faith and with love. They're doing things big and small in the community, whether that's a registry for newly adopted parents, to a gift bag for a chemo patient, to a meal for nurses and doctors. And those are real tangible things to brighten other people's days. I think the thing that's most refreshing about this organization is they're talking about hard things and relating to others and reminding everybody that you're not alone through whatever trial you're going through.
I'm honored to support the ladies of Faithfully Restored Women. They are loving our community so well and being there with people and just coming alongside of them in their greatest time of needs. I know for me, I have been so encouraged by the ways that they are just going above and beyond, showing love. When I was going through a difficult time and they dropped off a card and beautiful flower just saying that they were praying for me, it meant so much to me. And I am just so excited to continue being alongside these ladies and just helping them continue their mission throughout our town and more.
I give to Faithfully Restored because I see what these women are doing. I see that they are helping women to feel encouraged and not feel alone. And I see that they're being the hands and feet of Jesus. And I can't always physically be part of what they're doing. And so I give to help them grow and show more women love and encouragement. Because when a woman feels loved and poured into, she can turn around and do that for someone else. And I just think that is a great thing that we need to keep showing God's love.
I am honored to be able to give to Faithfully Restored. I think they are a beautiful organization, and I am happy to be able to support what they do. I have watched as the 4 women of Faithfully Restored have walked through some of the most difficult, some of the most tragic and heartbreaking situations that anyone will go through in their lives. And I have watched them walk through with grace and come out on the other side with hope and love and encouragement for other people, other women who are struggling in maybe the same ways that they were. So whether it was cancer diagnosis or the loss of a child or infertility or anything, they are there. They are there to pray for you. They are there to send love and encouragement to you or to someone else you know who may be hurting and maybe needs a little pickup. It's wonderful to donate to a small organization where through following their social media you can find out what they're doing and find out where your money is actually going to. I love that part of Faithfully Restored, and I just encourage anybody who has a moment to look up this organization, read about the wonderful women who are leading this cause, and to give from your heart.
Figure out a good spot to put this.
Welcome to Stories from the Heart.
Is this a good angle?
Right in the heart. evening to everyone. Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm Elizabeth Hasselbeck, and I'm so thankful that you've decided to carve out some time and join us here live from the Loveless Barn in Nashville, Tennessee. The stories of the heart are going to capture yours today. I can say that with a full heart of honesty. And on behalf of Faithfully Restored, I'm so thankful to be a part of this right now. Originally, here we are at the Loveless Barn in Nashville, Tennessee, a place where food is shared, chicken, biscuits, gravy, jams, all of it. And our original goal was to gather hundreds and hundreds of people here under the barn lights to hear the stories tonight, some great music, which you're still going to get. And under the circumstances, we could not gather that many people. So what we're not going to focus on is what was not possible, and we're going to shift gears and focus on what Faithfully Restored is doing, and that is what is possible. So you are not able to come into the Loveless Barn tonight, so we are bringing the Loveless Barn with some great story writers and songs, and a story you're not going to want to miss right into your home. We can't pack the barn, but we hope to pack your homes and your hearts with hope right now. Whether you're walking through struggles or pain or feeling alone, we want you to know that you're not today, that we're with you, and that we're in this together. And the two women that you're about to meet have a story that is not to miss. If you have a friend and a phone, I want you to grab your phone right now. We want you to text that friend and invite them to join you into the story tonight, because this is something you're going to want to share with your very best friends. So text them the link to this Faithfully Restored event right here live from the Loveless, so that they can join in on hearing a story of one heart and two children, two moms that I'm about to talk to, that never knew that they would become friends until the heart that was inside of William started beating in the heart, in the body of Ava, Amy's daughter. So tonight we're talking to Jamie, William's mom, and we're talking to Amy, Ava's mom, and how this one heart has brought their families together in a way that you're going to want to share with your friends. Join us tonight, but first it is a blessing and an honor and a privilege to introduce you to William.
Do it again.
When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll.
Want a hug? Want a hug? Oh. You're a big hugger, huh?
Thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul.
Okay, William, show me your snow angel.
It is well with my soul.
You can do it. You can do it.
It is well with my soul. And Lord, haste me when my faith shall be sight.
Are you a little stinker?
Yeah.
Are you a stinker?
Back as a scroll. The trump shall resound. It is well with my
Come on, one more try. Ready, go. You can do it.
It is well. It is well.
You did it!
Wow, good man.
You say bye.
Take a moment and joining me now, Jamie and Amy together, so brave. And I have my foot right under your foot.
I could feel it the whole time. Like, I know. Even the music, I could just, I know exactly what's shown. I only watch that once a year, maybe is really all I can do. But it's so good. You see his vibrant body and just the perfect little boy he was, full of energy and spirit, and such a gift.
You know, the rest of us can't imagine what it's like to sit here and watch that, feeling what you feel. So describing how you feel helps, I think, connect a little bit in. I know starting with this is hard. I know it's not easy. It's a brave thing to do, but it's where the story really begins. And so I think for everyone at home who's watching, to begin with the walkthrough of a little bit more about William, and then walk us through this journey and how you connect to Amy, and tell us about William's heart and your final days with him as best you can. And listen, we're friends here, okay? We're here in this barn with some lights up, and only by the power of God are we able to communicate as best we can about this, Jamie. So just know, like, we have our arms around you, and we can take this for both of you nice and slowly, and we just need to know a little bit more so that we can just get a little bit closer. And it's blessing someone out there tonight. So you're really courageous to do this. So if you could walk us through where the story begins. We know it's with William's heart.
I loved the idea of showing that first, because I think it gives everyone such a picture into William in his life. And as I was arriving at the Love List today, I realized this was where we were. Daniel and I, my husband Daniel, and I were here the night before William choked. We were at an Ensworth Christmas party, a work Christmas party, and we were here in this very room. And it was a Friday morning. I woke up and went to work, and kind of midday, 2 coworkers found me and said, something is wrong. William choked and he isn't breathing. And I immediately knew when they told me that it was going to be bad. I woke up early that morning and didn't want to get out of bed to do a Bible study, so I was like, the easier thing to do is lay here and pray. I was kind of lazy, and so I just prayed, and I spent a little extra time in just praying for God's will to be done, and that God's provision in that, and just having me spend a little more time with him in that, so that when they found me at work, I knew. And I drove to the hospital right away, and I was repeating, God, let your will be done, let your will be done. And when I got to the hospital, I got there before the ambulance, and as soon as they took him out of the ambulance, I saw his little face, and there was just an emptiness in his eyes. And his eyes were closed, but there was just, I could tell, and I thought, okay, this is not my will, this is not what I want, but God, you have put me here, and it's going to be okay. And that peace, such a gift for me in that moment. And so we go to Williamson Medical Center. They're working on him, and the doctors come over and say, we have one more opportunity to try to get his heart started beating. And they gave him one last dose of medicine, and his heart started beating. And I was kind of confused, because I such had peace that he was gone and not going to make it, that then when his heart started beating again, I was a little like, okay. And I ride the ambulance and get in the car and head to Vanderbilt, and I asked the guy driving the ambulance, I was like, do you think I should do a Facebook post right now asking for people to be praying? And he was like, I think whatever you want to do in this moment is fine. And the poor guy was like, oh gosh, who put me in here? And so I wrote a Facebook post and just kind of said, here's where we are, if you could be praying for our family. And so we got there, and they stabilized him on a ventilator, and so many people came to the hospital to support us and show their love, and everyone was praying for a miracle. And to be honest, I wasn't. I had such a peace about him not making it that I never really prayed for him to make it. When I saw him, I remember being in the room that night, one of our pastors were there, and Dana was there, and I just said, like, just go. Like, I know you're in the arms of Jesus.
You knew.
Like, I knew, but I didn't, but I'm like, here he is, stable on a ventilator, his heart started beating again, but I knew he wasn't gonna make it. And so I remember sitting in the waiting room with tons of people around me, and almost wanting to scream and be like, when is this, what now? When does this end? Like, I have such a peace that he's with Jesus, but it just, do you pull the plug on a 2-year-old? I mean, I didn't know how it was all going to end. And so we went to bed that night, and obviously in the darkest time. And we woke up the next morning, and they said, you have a meeting with the what's next guy. And I thought the guy was going to help us plan a funeral. And so we get in the room with him, and he was from Tennessee Donor Services, and he said, I'd like to present you with the option of organ donation. And Daniel and I looked at each other, and we were like, yes. And all those people that had been praying for us, and to be comforted in that time, this was such an answered prayer, because I immediately was like, okay, God, like, this is why his heart started beating again. This is why you have brought us here. And we shifted our prayers to now praying for that William could help as many people as possible. And it gave purpose.
This is in that same moment.
This is in that same moment in that room with the what next guy from Tennessee Donor Services.
Because you said you had, when his heart started beating again, you said confused. I was wondering why, because you had already surrendered to...
I really had. It's crazy. And it is, the only way that I can describe it is, the Holy Spirit in that moment, took up residence. He's there all the time. But so powerful, was like, I've got you. Wow. It's going to be okay. As soon as my coworkers came to my room and told me that, I was like, okay. I instantly thought back to when I was in bed that morning, and I prayed, God, let your will be done. And whatever it is, give me the strength to get through it. And it was as if I flashed back to laying in bed that morning, and I was like, all right.
He was already preparing.
Yeah, I knew it. As soon as they told me, I was like, okay.
And so you make that decision to say yes to being organ donors.
It was, honestly, Daniel and I, we didn't even discuss it. We just kind of looked at each other and knew. And my thought is, I would give anything to have a little bit more time with them. 6 minutes, 6 weeks, 6 months. And if we can provide that for someone else we had come to peace by that he was in the arms of Jesus. He was in a better place than we are here. And if we can help a family that is fighting for the life of their child,
wow,
we're in.
And now, not if you can, when you did. So I'm going to hit the pause button right now. If we could screenshot this, your story where William is and the decision that you made, we take a pause right now and we take a look at what's happening unbeknownst to you at the time, in a very different city, I don't know how many miles apart, in Chicago.
It's 370.
370 miles. I'm sure
Maybe,
the two of you know
something
exactly
Only
how
because I
many
just
miles
drove it
between.
on Thursday,
You
so
did.
that's how I know how
So,
many.
Amy, tell us what your situation was at this very time, and then we're going to bring this together. And you're not going to believe it, but you will believe. Once you hear this connection right here on this moment, on this sofa, in this Loveless Barn in Nashville, Tennessee, we get to share this story that I'm still sitting here having known it, and I'm holding my breath, waiting to hear out of your mouths what God did in this moment. So you're with Ava in Chicago, and tell us a little bit about this moment for you as we hit the pause button here.
Sure. So at this point for Ava, days are numbered, really, for her. She had gone into heart failure when she was 13 months old, on August 18th of 2015. Prior to this moment of Jamie and Daniel deciding to donate William's organs, Ava, we found out that she was going to be born with a congenital heart defect called hypoplastic left heart syndrome. And this was at our 20-week ultrasound. So halfway through pregnancy, Brian and I learned, my husband and I, that Ava would be born with this congenital defect. We were presented in the state of Illinois, you're able to abort up until 25 weeks. And so medically, we have to be told of all of our options. And Brian and I, the thought never even crossed our minds. If we had 2 minutes with her when she was born, that was enough for us. Ava was actually born with APGAR scores of 8 and 9, which to all non-medical people out there, that's basically a healthy, thriving baby. And she was completely stable. She did have to have an open heart surgery when she was 7 days old. And again, recovered seemingly seamlessly. We were home with her, with our other daughter, who was not even 2 at that time, in 2 weeks after Ava was born. She did very well, lots of checkups and things, but she was thriving. When she was 6 months old, that's when we went in for her second open heart surgery. And essentially, the defects that Ava had was called Shone's syndrome. And essentially, she had a half of a heart. So when people hear that term of babies having half a heart, physically her whole heart is there, but only half of it's really functioning properly. And she did well up until 6 months, and then her second open heart surgery, unfortunately, she wasn't doing well at all. At that point, they were able to stabilize her and get her functioning. We did go home, but from that point until heart failure, she was on a steady decline. We had one of the largest first birthday parties you could ever imagine. And it was a celebration that she had made it to her first birthday. And again, she was thriving. And for those of you out there that have had the privilege of meeting Ava, you would never know that she's a sick child with all of her clothes on. All of her clothes off, you're like, oh, that's a lot of war wounds. But she slowly was declining, and at a follow-up visit on August 18th, in her ultrasound that was being conducted, her left ventricle was no longer pumping. And ironically, she was completely asymptomatic, but the technician and the physician saw that and said, we need to get her to the hospital immediately because she's in heart failure. Within 12 hours, she had completely crashed. Emergently intubated, and she was blue in color, and remained that way for some time. It was a roller coaster throughout that 4 months of a hospital stay.
Are you on a list right now for donation? When did that happen?
On August 25th, so it takes about 7 days for them to go through all of the benchmarks that they have to test neurological things and run all of the tests to see what she would match with. And so it takes about a week. So on August 25th, we received the notification that she was listed as a status 1A, which is the most severe, I guess, that you could be, meaning kind of puts her at the top of the list. And at that point, my parents, who are both retired, essentially just moved into our home so that Brian and I could be free to go back and forth from the hospital and try to create some normalcy for our at this point, Ella would have been 3. And we were strangers in the night, just trying to make life seem as normal as possible. And I thought I was holding it together quite well, but friends who are honest with me said I was just a shell of a person.
What was your prayer at that time?
At that time, I just didn't want Ava to be in pain. In middle of September, so about a month into her heart failure of being in the hospital, she started having what's called jet or junctional arrhythmias. And the medical team, essentially, without saying it in so many words, had advised us to bring all of our closest family to the hospital and, in so many words, say goodbye. But she has so much in her, and she just fought right through it. She was intubated again. At that point, we didn't know what to expect, so we just held on to every single moment that we could. One of my aunts, who is a nun, a Catholic nun, her mother house is here in Nashville, was ironically in Chicago at this time on a layover, coming through Chicago to get to Nashville. And so she was able to be at the hospital with us. And I remember just sitting there on the couch in Ava's room, just watching Sister Mary Rose stand at Ava's bedside and just pray the rosary over her. And she came and sat down next to me and she said, "What can I do for you?" And I said, at this point, all we can do is pray that she's not in pain and that hopefully a heart will come soon. A heart didn't come right then and there, which I'm thankful for, but she recovered somehow and kept chugging along. She would get intubated and then they would take her off. She would get intubated, they'd take her off. And then right after Thanksgiving, she developed pneumonia. And so they said that they were going to have to take her off of the transplant list.
She would no longer qualify to receive one at that time because of her pneumonia.
Correct.
So she got bumped down on the list. Is that, am I
So they call it
clearly?
status 7, and so essentially she doesn't lose her place in line, but it makes her step out of line so that UNOS, the governing body that matches donor and recipient, don't waste their time to call our hospital to offer it to them.
Okay.
Ironically, we didn't know this at the time, but a heart did come through the day that they were putting her on status 7, and our team had to decline the offer. So that was about a week or so after that, she did bounce back from pneumonia. Again, this is like a repeating, story for her. But I don't know the exact date, but as Jamie and I were kind of looking at photos, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right, she had pneumonia right after Thanksgiving. It was right around the time that William choked that she was actually put back on the list because she was well enough.
So she's now well enough to receive a heart. We are taking this in, and we go back to Jamie, who you have made the decision with Daniel to make a donation. So you're 2 moms that I'm looking at right now with prayers for more time, I'm imagining. I don't know what that's like, but I'm imagining your shared prayer had already connected you. So tell me, the heart that came to your Ava was William's heart. Can you bring us into that moment? If it's possible.
Yeah. So William choked on Friday, December 11th. And Jamie and Daniel made the decision on Saturday, December 12th, when they were approached by the What's Next.
Was there any hesitation, Jamie?
There really wasn't. I think we had such a peace that he was no longer there, and we just really, to me, it gave purpose for his heart starting to beat again, and just was an answered prayer with so many people rallying around us, and then him not making it, and kind of the disappointment of that for people. I think for us, I think it was different, but I still was thinking about all these other people that were praying, and their prayer wasn't answered. Their prayer for a miracle wasn't answered. And so for us, it was a decision of, okay, his life is going to do something. God has a story for his life, and it doesn't end right here at Vanderbilt.
Wow.
And so to us, it gave purpose, and it shifted our prayers. And everyone that was around us, we could say, now you're praying for as many people as possible out there to benefit from us choosing to be organ
And what
donors.
did that prayer sound like?
Exactly like that. God, please help whoever is out there. Because we were in the hospital, so you can kind of picture a little bit of families in the hospital with kids. Because the day before, it was us, you know, with a child that we didn't think was going to make it. And so God let as many people as possible be blessed by his organs and be touched by and help all those people praying to be praying for the people.
And you said yes to donating William's heart to bless someone to have more time on Saturday.
And it really, to kind of take you through it also, like I said, I didn't know how it was going to end. Here he is stable on a ventilator. He looked like he was sleeping. I mean, he's hooked up to a bunch of things, but there is nothing wrong with him. I mean, everything besides, there was never any, after he choked, there was never any brain function that came back. So we were like, do we bring Madeline? We had a 4-year-old at the time. Do we bring her up there? And decided to bring her up there, and she sees him, and he just looks peaceful and like he's sleeping. And so another thing with organ donation, they say this might lengthen your time in the hospital because now it takes a few extra days to try to match as many people as possible to his organs. And to us, we were like, absolutely. We're like, great. My sister flew in from Europe. Everyone that wanted to come say bye to him could bye, because we knew when we left that hospital, like there was no more like running my hands through his hair. I mean, I couldn't stop. It was just like, ugh. And I knew that was gonna end.
But that yes gave you even
more time. It did. I mean, I knew the time was fleeting, but it gave us more time. And it was everyone that wanted to come say goodbye. I mean, it was weird. I remember calling a friend and asking her to come up, and I was like, you don't have to though. If you want to come, you don't have to. And I think everyone was like, this is kind of weird. And but everyone that came was so glad. It was just, we were praising God in that moment of, we know where he is, we know it's going to be okay, and
he is where you will be.
Yes, I'm going there.
Right. So that's the peace. Like the peace is the assurance of God and the promise of heaven. Just for someone who's hearing this and is like, what do you mean this peace? What are you talking about? I would be in pieces on the floor. I wouldn't have a peace. That was the gift of God to you to say, this is goodbye here for now. But that little goodbye we heard,
I know.
that little goodbye.
Yeah.
And it gives Ava a chance to have more time in a different way. And that connection, after your yes, correct me if I'm wrong, is a Saturday. Does it start on Friday? So it's Sunday today, right? We've all been in quarantine and that. So it is Sunday today.
It is Sunday.
Okay, so if you're thinking in real time, if you were to imagine 2 days ago, yesterday you say yes, you get expanded time, not the way you would have ever planned or imagined. But
Till Monday. We had till
Monday.
Yes, they said the transplant surgery will be, and also that kind of gave an ending as well. So he told us, Tony was his name, told us that they will turn off the ventilator halfway through the surgery.
Okay.
So also for me, I don't know. I I couldn't picture how it all ended. And so to me, it also gave an ending to
And a purpose.
his life and so
And
much
a purpose. His story
Yeah.
is one
Yeah.
that has such purpose. And
Yeah.
you get to look in the eyes of a mom and see this purpose. Like not how we would have desired, not God's desire from the start, but how he's repurposing this and restoring this is astounding to me. And so Amy, on this Monday, is Monday the day you received the heart?
So yes, Monday was December 14th,
Okay.
2015. So Sunday, we didn't, have any clue that it was going to happen the following day.
Yes.
Monday morning, I had slept at the hospital Sunday night with Ava. And Monday morning, I was woken up to one of Ava's team nurses waking me up with the news that we were going to get the heart.
What does that feel like? Did you question it? Were you like,
I did.
I'm sure you were awake?
I did. So
Okay.
Maggie physically woke me up and was kind of kneeling at my bedside, whispering and saying that, wake up. And she's like, and I was like, I'm awake. And she says, Amy, today's the day. Today's the day that Ava's going to get a heart. And I was still kind of coming to, and I was just like, Maggie, what are you talking about? I don't even remember the words, but it was something along the lines of like, are you serious? Is this really happening? And Ava, at that point, she was still intubated, but she was awake, which is a very strange thing to see a child completely awake and pleasant and happy to be on a ventilator playing. But she was slapping her legs on the bed. That was her way of getting our attention because she couldn't speak.
Okay.
And so it's this moment of Maggie hugging me and us crying, and I see Ava over Maggie's shoulder slapping her legs on the bed, and then I see just past Ava's bed, and all of her medical team is outside of her door, just in tears and joyful that today was going to be the day.
So this is an answer to prayer.
Yes.
A mom's desperate prayer, a family's desperate prayer, friends' desperate prayer. William's heart in Ava's body. And then how did the two of you find each other? Because I see you smiling at each other. You love each other. This friendship you have. Like how soon after that do you know?
So that was at 8 in the morning, and Ava finally went down to the operating room
Yes.
at noon.
Okay.
Our team physically flies down. One of the surgeons physically flew down to Nashville to obtain and secure William's heart and bring it back to Chicago.
Okay.
In this time, we've had the opportunity to reach out to all of our family and friends and announce that today's the day. And we have a large family and a large support system in the Chicagoland area as well as all over. And it connected because close friends of mine and Brian's, posted on Facebook that, today's the day. All of you out there that have been praying for this little girl, because I know you have, it's happening today, and we could not be more thankful. And later that day, those same friends actually were at the hospital while Ava was still in surgery, and they had already connected the pieces via a story that, because they shared, Julia had commented and reached out to our friends to say, thank you so much for sharing this story. It's been an awful time down here in Nashville. Some of our friends lost their son on Friday. He choked.
Is this on Facebook?
So I think they were messaging, maybe text messaging.
Okay.
But she had originally seen the post about praying for Ava, today's the day. So at that point, they started kind of connecting some of the pieces. There was a little bit of information that was known. We knew that Ava's donor was a B blood type and that the donor was about 30 pounds because Ava was only about 14 pounds at that time, and they were going to have to make a bunch of adjustments to her medications. And also Ava's an O blood type, so we needed to know that the donor was coming from, that the heart was coming from a B donor, and we'd have to know some of that for medical reasons.
Okay.
And so at this point, Taryn knew that Ava was O blood type, and I think they somehow shared.
So Julia, my friend who contacted her, then she didn't want to text me and be like, do they know anything? And so she texted another one of my friends and was like, do they know anything about where his heart went? And my friend Missy was like, it went to a 1-year-old in Chicago. And Daniel and I just happened to overhear that. You're not really supposed to know, but we overheard nurses saying his heart was going to Chicago, his liver was going to Texas, and his kidneys were going as a block to North Carolina. And so we kind of knew that information. So Missy kind of relayed that. And so this is now Tuesday evening.
Okay. Yeah, so Ava gets out of surgery
Okay.
Monday night, and she's doing awesome. And we get through the next day, Tuesday, she's still very stable. Everybody is thrilled that she's doing so well. She's still intubated and under anesthesia, but she's doing so well that they are like, you know what, we're going to keep her under anesthesia for one more night, make sure that everything's nice and stable, and tomorrow we'll start lifting some of the paralytics and hopefully wake her up. And so Tuesday night, Brian and I go off to bed. We were staying in a Ronald McDonald suite in the hospital, and it was about 7 o'clock at night, which is obviously an early time to go to bed, but it's been a long couple months. So we gladly go off to bed. Brian falls asleep, and
Well, little did they know, while that was happening at our house, a bunch of friends were over. And one of my friends, lifelong friend from my hometown, Brody, was like, hey, have they told you about Ava? And I was like, what? And my friends were like, we weren't going to tell her. And she was like, well, I'm telling her. And she's like, we think we know where William's heart went. And I was like, are you kidding? And I remember looking over, and Daniel's just like, oh gosh, like, here we go. Like, your friends, every time we get together, all the guys are like, what's going to happen? And so.
Did you want to know?
I mean, it was such a dark time that even just the thought that that could be a possibility of us knowing, it just, imagine that situation. I mean, your 2-year-old son has just passed away. Your friends are coming over. We're printing a bunch of pictures, trying to get ready for the memorial. It's fine. You know, it was actually, I think, a lighter hearted than you would think. But it just gave a little spark to, like imagine we were all sitting around kind of giddy. And, you know, my son had just passed away a few days ago, you know, so it just gave a little bit of excitement. And so so they kind of explained that connection of Julia and Taryn and stuff. And so we get on Facebook, and they have a page for Ava, Hope for Amazing Ava. And we get on there, and we watch a news clip from Monday. And during the surgery, it was covered by the Chicago News, and we see a cooler being wheeled in, and we see a heart being taken out and put in Ava, and the doctor's like, welcome to your new home.
I have full chills.
And we were like, what? And her and Brian were interviewed, and they were so sweet, and they were like, we are just so thankful that in someone's darkest hour, they chose to give life to our little girl. And they said, we pray we honor that person's life every day. And I was like, I love them already. I watched that video, and I was like, I love these people. And so we kind of were like, is this it? And we knew, like she said, kind of about the weight and a few facts that we were like, we think this is it. And so
what did you do?
I got on Facebook, and I was like, I'm going to write the mom. And I remember looking over at Daniel, and he's like, just like pump the brakes a little bit. And I was like, okay. And I was like typing away, like, I'm going to write her anyway. And I did. I sent her a message.
This is on Facebook.
It's on Facebook.
Okay.
Through a little,
do you have it with you? Okay.
We have it.
Okay. Will you share?
I will share.
Okay.
So it says, hey, Amy, I heard about your sweet daughter from a friend, and my body felt weak. Our son, William, a 2-year-old from Nashville, donated his heart yesterday. We were told it was going to a 1-year-old in Chicago. That's all the information they gave us. Do you know where your daughter's heart came from? Regardless, it warms my heart to hear your story. We lost our son when he choked while eating lunch on Friday. In the words of our 4-year-old, he's alive in heaven. God has been so good to us, and knowing our sweet William's heart and kidney went to save 2 lives has been a bright spot in our darkest hour. I will be praying for your girl. With love, Jamie.
And we talk about this now as we relay all of the things that took place that we didn't realize were taking place at the same time. Brian had fallen asleep, and I had gotten out of bed, and growing up Catholic, you kneel at the bedside to pray at the end of the day, right? And at this moment, knowing that Ava was stable and knowing that things looked bright for us, all I could do at that moment was pray that the family that gave us this gift was feeling some peace, and all I could do was just pray for their healing at that moment. And I laid back down in bed, heard my phone ding, and there was Jamie's message that she just read to you guys. And so at first I read it 2 and 3 times over, thinking this cannot be real. Our team at Laurie Children's Hospital is social workers and therapists and psychologists, and her medical team that takes care of her body physically. And not that they had warned about anything in a negative way, but just to say Ava's story had been covered publicly on a Chicago news station, and they just said, just be careful that you're not responding or reacting too quickly if anybody reaches out to you, because who knows.
Okay.
But the second I read Jamie's message, there was nothing about it that felt disingenuine. Everything about it, in my heart, I knew that this was it.
Do you believe that? So your children share heart, and God is already tying yours together.
Yes.
So what did you do next?
So I wrote her back. Well, no, I woke up Brian, and he was half awake, and I told him, a woman just messaged me and said that she thinks her son's heart is the one that Ava received. And I don't think he was quite awake, because he's like, oh yeah, great, good, or something along those lines. I'm like, I think I'm gonna message her back. He's like, yeah, awesome. He went back to bed. And I wrote her back.
And what did you say?
So I said to her, oh my goodness, Jamie, we are just speechless. I should have said, I'm speechless and Brian is snoring.
Brian's sleeping.
But, we do not have any information about the donor, but in rounds, I heard them talk about the weight of the donor was 13 kilograms or so, and B blood type. Laurie's is the only children's hospital in Chicago that does pediatric heart transplants, so it has to be us. Could this be real? I've prayed and prayed that we would have a chance to connect one day. We are just in awe at your strength to give us this gift for Ava. At that point, we then are just giddy girls, just messaging back and forth.
We both knew, and just felt a connection and bond from those messages. I mean, it was crazy.
Yes.
We started sending pictures of, Ella. She has another daughter, Ella, and so pictures of her daughter, Ella, and pictures of Madeline. I mean, I think we sent videos of the kids, and we just kind of knew. And it wasn't until the next day that we could confirm it.
The next day, Brian and I went to our transplant coordinator and said, okay, we know this is illegal maybe, or something along those lines. We're not illegal in the sense that we could get arrested, but we know that this is discouraged.
Yes.
However, we are pretty sure we know where Ava's heart came from, and we know that you might have to go to a couple different people to gain authorization to share this information with us, but could you at least just confirm that you flew to Nashville to get Ava's heart? And he said, okay. And he did confirm on the spot that that's where they flew. However, he said, all that said, I'm going to have to go back to the powers that be and confirm that this is allowed and appropriate. And in less than, I think he came back later that night.
I think it was the same day, yeah.
And said, we've been given permission since both parties are consenting to knowing the information. And he said William's heart is the heart that Ava received.
And we kind of ran it through Vanderbilt too. I called someone there and said, I know this is not really what happens, because they had told us they'll send a letter at a month out, kind of let us know the status. Then at a year mark, you can write a letter and connect if both parties, are willing.
That was expedited.
And, that was just
very quickly.
Slightly shortened. And so she was like, okay. She was like, well, and it was so good because she said, I just want you to think about, you could potentially, which of course I hadn't thought about it, I instantly connected. You could, his heart could not take. And so a day later, a week later, you could suffer another loss. And I was so glad she said that, because I hadn't thought about that. And we kind of thought about it, and Daniel and I talked about it, and it's like, we'd give anything for any amount of time with William. So we felt like we had kind of suffered the greatest loss. And so to give Amy and Brian a little bit more time with Ava, a week, if the heart would last a week, it was longer than we got.
I keep hearing the song that played when we watched William, and our audience at home got to see a glimpse of him. And the song, It Is Well With My Soul. When did that become real for you?
Yeah, it was honestly throughout that whole process, I would say I was getting closer to that.
Okay.
And as the organization piece came in, because we're prepping for his memorial.
Yes.
And so we're prepping for 1,000 people to walk by and shake our hands, and family come in town and talk at a memorial service and all of that. And it was such a ray of hope and light during that time, and be like, it's going to be okay. Like, when I thought a piece, when he choked, and I thought, okay, this is it, God instantly was confirming things along the way. So quickly to connect with them.
It just doesn't seem real.
It wasn't.
It doesn't seem
it doesn't.
like something you can believe. When is the first time the two of you saw each other, and how did what happened? Take us into that moment where you're actually in present with one another. What's that like, and what do you say? Amy, what do you say to a Jamie that just gave you this gift?
We didn't physically meet face to face. Our families didn't meet until March of 2016.
Okay.
So about 3 months down the road. Ava can't really travel during that first year post-transplant, so it was kind of decided that they were going to come up to Chicago to meet us.
Them and their 300 closest friends.
Yeah, us and big Irish Catholic families were very small in number. But we had connected through text message and messages on social media pretty much consistently from the transplant forward.
Okay.
And Jamie and Daniel and your mom, and I can't remember
and
who
Daniel's
else.
dad.
And Daniel's dad and his stepmom and brother and sister all came up, and they were coming up because some of our friends were going to be hosting a benefit for Ava. But we didn't want the benefit to be the first time that we met, for obvious reasons. There was going to be 300 other people there. So they came over to our home, and Brian's cousin Erin is a gifted photographer. And so we asked her to come, and I asked Jamie, I said, would you be okay if we did this? We had her come to capture the photos of us meeting for the first time.
Now we see some photos behind us, and at home you probably see them on the screen. Walk us through the emotion, and Jamie, Amy seeing Jamie for the first time, knowing what a selfless heart both she and Daniel have, and then Jamie holding Ava, what that felt like.
It was, we had talked, like she said, gosh, probably daily, seriously, up until this point. And so, but there was a little bit of kind of hype to meeting. Sure. And so I remember pulling in their driveway, and we have Madeline and our family with us, and we're kind of walking up to the door, and I was like looking around, and I can't find Madeline. And so I look, and I was like, "Where's Madeline?" And Amy's like, "Oh, she's in our playroom." And I was like, "Okay, this is amazing." And so we walk up, and Ava instantly puts her arms out towards me and comes in, and
Which is completely out of her character because she had been poked and prodded her entire life by adults. And so anybody that she didn't know or recognize, it was rare that she would reach out to be comforted by that person. And we were standing on the front porch, and she, like Jamie just said, she instantly reached out for her, which was all of the introduction that needed to happen in that moment. And I think everything from that point forward just
it's felt like family.
flowed.
It felt like family. It looks like family. It feels like you are feeling. I'm seeing the pictures here of a stethoscope and Ava in your arms. Jamie, describe that for us. What did that feel like? Did it feel like, I think everyone would ask, did it feel like you were holding William when you heard that heart? Walk us through what that feels like
I'm
for
going to
you.
be honest. That, and I think maybe because I was like expecting maybe to feel, or I don't know, it just, that little moment felt like it carried so much weight
Yes.
that it didn't even, I don't even know if I waited long enough to listen, honestly. There wasn't much in that moment. Holding her is when I feel just, even now, like I just love to snuggle her, and I love to just like hold her and her, you know, just like sink into me, and that feels so good and just like such a little gift, to where I don't even, like I said, I think I was, and I knew Aaron was taking pictures, and I was just like, I don't even think I listened really. I was just like,
What am
okay,
I
I'm
listening
here,
for?
and I'm good.
And you're still grieving.
Yes, it was
Right?
still,
So
yeah.
it's both. It's kind of that both
Yes.
hands thing. You're celebrating this gift and this life in your hands, yet you're grieving
Yeah.
at the same time. I'm not even sure anyone can comprehend that. But you said that closeness that you feel. Is that the reminder of the purpose of William's story?
It is. I think it gives me a little, it seems like I'm holding a little piece of William. It does. It just, when I'm, and yeah, it does. And I love it. And the fact that we get to share in that. And I mean, someone asked the other day how many times we see each other a year, and I was like, quite a bit.
Yeah,
like
we were like
4
or 5. And they're like,
I don't
That's
know.
more than
We're
people
always-
see their own family.
Yeah.
Like their family.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have, this relationship was born. And you have nurtured it. You have continued to be close with one another. You travel together. You'll get together with your guys.
We do
with the whole
couples
fam-
trips. We do.
It's really remarkable.
Yeah.
I mean, Amy, when you're sitting next to Jamie, what are your words over this relationship? Like this is a friend you never thought you'd have.
And the words that I would use to describe it is it's a gift every day that we get to thank Jamie and Daniel in more ways than just saying the words thank you. We get to share in life with them. We get to share our beautiful families with each other. And to me, that is the community and the faith and the hope that this was always meant to be is undescribable.
I mean, I feel like, you know, you pray for miracles and you think you know what you're praying for. And then we sit with you right here and we hear this story, and the miracle within it just keeps becoming more evident. Like I feel like I'm sitting with one right now. And I think the provision of God in this time, you know, that taking loss, giving life, and all of it threaded with hope in your connection right now has not only like restored your own hearts as women, as wives, as sisters in Christ, but would you say it's been the motivating factor to serving others? Amy, I know you do great work. I know the two of you were together for the first time serving on a day of thanks in the hospitals this year. You actually, it was a big deal, Jamie, that you were able to get there and actually serve together. You now do life together. Tell us a little bit about that time, and then Jamie, I know we're going to talk about Faithfully Restored as well, and you have a little something you want us to see, but talk about what it means to serve together and what motivates you to want to help others right now.
For Brian and I, we were surrounded with love and community when we were going through all of that. And we also connected with other families in the cardiac ICU. And thankfully for us, our repeat visits back to the cardiac ICU have been very few and far between since transplant.
Yeah.
But we know that that's not the story for a lot of families. We saw families say goodbye to their babies when we were in the hospital waiting for Ava's heart transplant. So our family did this for us. They catered food on Thanksgiving for all of the families that were inpatient and all of the staff that were working on that day. And so every year since Ava's transplant, we have continued to do that for the families that are inpatient as well as the staff. And it's turned into this massive care package that goes along with that meal. And we invited Jamie and Daniel this last Thanksgiving to come with us, and they were able to be a part of it.
Wow.
And for us, giving back to those staff members that did amazing work alongside all of the other team members, it's fitting to give back to them and give back to the families and sit down and just pour into them what everybody did for us and provide a sense of hope that they can and will take their babies home.
Just wrapping around them.
Yeah.
I think that's when we went up to Chicago.
Yes.
And I initially was like, okay, I think it's going to be, some close friends, like, how can we be praying for you? And I was like, I think it's going to be hard to go up to the hospital where Ava was and be there. And
You were very honest about that.
Yeah. I mean, when I need prayer, it's like, I don't care what's going on. Like,
Bring it in.
Bring it in
Yes.
for the real thing. And I thought it was going to be hard, and it was, but in such a good way. The families we met that were up there, for them, they all were like, wait, you're who and you're who? I mean, it just blew their mind, and it gave them such hope.
Such hope.
And to see God's glory on display in our stories, it was really special and really neat to be there together and get to give back in that way.
Yeah. I can only imagine what that would have
It
been
was.
like. Just literal hope before them. Just
Yeah.
two moms connecting, two dads connecting over this situation. And Jamie, I think if you're joining us and you're wondering, like, someone would say, perhaps, Jamie's given enough. Jamie and Daniel they're done with the giving. They've checked the box. They are good for the rest of their time. But you have really decided, and Amy, we hear how you are. And I mean, I love your passion, how you have taken your experiences and said, we want to bless others because we know how hard that is. We know what that trench is like. We want to be in there with somebody because if we can give them a little bit of hope, that's what we're here for. You've started Faithfully Restored, and we're going to bring up some of the women that are doing this with you, and I cannot wait to just invite all of you to get to know them. Tell us a little bit about what serving someone else and coming alongside someone who might feel alone in their struggle, why they would want to connect, just briefly now. And then Amy, you have a little treat for us that we're going to watch in a minute.
I mean, it is because the way God has loved me throughout my life and unconditionally, like there's no sin that could have happened that he's like, never mind, you're done. And that redemption that he has done in my own story is what makes me pour out love into other people. And I want someone else to know going through something, you're not alone. And our whole family was loved on so well. I mean, we could instantly tell that they were too. And that was the cool thing. It was like every time they come here, except for this time, we normally have, all my friends are coming over. Everyone wants to meet Amy and Brian. And the same thing when I go up there. I mean, we're surrounded, and we were loved on so well, and God loves us so well and continues to be faithful to our family. And that just makes me want to love on others and make sure they know that whatever they're going through, it's going to be okay.
And
God's got you.
It's a broad scope. I mean, when you say God's got you, your main goal is to let everyone know you're not alone, you're loved, you're seen, and we are here for you. So Faithfully Restored, when you hear more about it, it covers such a range of trial and struggle, but it restores through connection, and I can't wait to tell more people about that. When I think about this moment between the two of you, the moment of a decision, someone who needed to receive, someone who was willing to give, it involved, in that really thin space, one decision. And Amy, you brought for us something to take a look at that you're very passionate about that moment in organ donation and the decision and what it can mean for someone else. And you brought us a little piece of film. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So after Ava's heart transplant, a film student from Argentina actually contacted me and said that he had heard about Ava's story through a hashtag that he was researching. And he decided that he was going to do a public service announcement or short film regarding organ donation and why it's so important. And he wanted to highlight the two sides of organ donation to help people understand why it's so important to become an organ donor. And Nicholas Borey is an amazing artist, and he has a beautiful heart, and this is the film that he created to raise awareness about organ donation. We are back. We are thankful for the art that went behind that moment. You know, I think perhaps even I didn't think about organ donation enough or in the way that I should have. And I think Jamie, even as our kids grow and we're at the DMV and getting licenses, like this is something that our children will make decisions based on now. And the hope there that it actually is astounding. You know, comforting others through your own suffering and pain
is something that the 4 women on this stage right now have been asked to step into. And I don't take that lightly. I look at your courageous eyes right here. These are the women of Faithfully Restored. Jamie, I would love for you to introduce me to all of your friends here, and we'll tell a little bit about their story, why Faithfully Restored is, who it serves. I think most people would be surprised, perhaps as I was, that it serves a wide breadth of those in need, and your main goal is to let people know what.
This is Heather and Jamie and Jenny Rebecca, and we are the Women of Faithfully Restored, and we have been through different trials, and like you said, we serve a variety of women, and I think a lot of times, anytime we speak, we try to say, we have child loss, we have, and you'll kind of hear their stories, but it can be anything. Your struggle is your struggle, whether it's anxiety, whether it's infidelity, divorce, whatever it is, you're not alone. And so our goal at Faithfully Restored is to let women know they're not alone and that there's hope found in Jesus. And so on our website, faithfullyrestoredwomen.com, we take in prayer requests. And every time a prayer request comes in, we try to evaluate how best to serve that woman. And I would say 50% of the